Hey everyone, you're listening to Read, Watch, Listen from the East Brunswick Public Library, and I'm Chris Barnes. I'm your host. Today we have a special guest. It's our circulation supervisor, Jesse Farparan. Jesse, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thanks. How about you, Chris?
Great, thank you. It's a nice winter afternoon here in Library Land, and we're going to talk about things. So Jesse's a circ supervisor, so he gets a firsthand look at everything that's coming and going in and out of the library. What's a trend that you've noticed about people checking things in or out lately at the library?
So, obviously there's a lot of the very popular authors. Your Frida McFadden is blown up immensely this year. Your James Pattersons, Danielle Steele's. There's been a lot of that. I've also noticed a trend towards more realistic fiction. So instead of more your standard novels or crime thrillers, it's very much a look at a day in the life of a person and their individual story, as opposed to your police procedurals, your dramas, things like that.
So a little more grounded than the over-the-top adventure?
Yeah, it feels more cozy, I would say.
That's a good word to call it.
Yeah, which I think nowadays, people are looking for a little bit of normalcy, just kind of something you can sit down and dive into without having to think too much about what's going on in the world. You're like, only focus on this one person's story for the length of this book.
It makes sense to me. I mean, you're talking to somebody who exclusively reads comic books and sports biographies. So this is the podcast, Read, Watch, Listen, where we learn what our special guests have been reading, watching, and listening. So let's start out, obviously, with the books. We talked about what you've noticed other people reading. Jesse, what have you been reading lately?
Mostly I read a lot of what I would affectionately call schlock. Just you're very campy, very tropey, a lot of science fiction and fantasy. One thing that I'm super looking forward to, 12 Months by Jim Butcher. It's a continuation of his series, The Dresden Files. I've gotten super into the series over the last year or two. So this is the first one that's coming out as I'm a fan of it. So I've been waiting in line with everybody else for a copy, which I'm super excited about.
So now you're going to experience the anticipation for it as opposed to getting on your own schedule. I totally get that.
Yeah, and all of the people going a little bit stir crazy waiting for it, the online, the fan theories and stuff. Whenever there's not something new to chew on, people will kind of make it up themselves, which has been entertaining.
I mean, fandom's probably been there since the beginning of everything, but it's kind of interesting these days because between Twitter and Threads and Reddit, that all of this stuff is going on, that sometimes there's more thought and debating and arguing over a story that's not happening than there actually was by the creative team who's put together something, whether it's a book or a movie.
Yeah, 100%. And we're all, it's more connected now than it was with the fanzines from Star Trek, when I think a lot of what we call fandom culture started with.
No, that makes sense because you're literally reading what a tastemaker has said. I think that Chekhov should be the captain and here's why, and you'll have to read it and that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also a part of the Garden State Children's Book Awards Committee, and we are finalizing our ballot now. And by the time this episode is out, I'm assuming that the ballot will also be available on the Garden State Children's Book Awards website and our social medias. It's called Dear Dad. It's by Jay Jay Patton. It is a graphic memoir about the author's experience as a child with an incarcerated father, how they communicate via letters, and when he gets out of prison, kind of readjusting to their new normal of being together again. And it's beautiful. The artwork is incredible. I highly recommend it. And it was really touching, which I think is nice.
Wow, that's much more serious than I was going to ask a question about Mo Willems, but
yeah, I will also love to talk about Mo Willems.
All right, so the flip side is if somebody was to look on Polymarket right now, how would you say that the Garden State Children's Book Awards were looking for Mr. Willems?
I don't think he's got anything new out this year, so I don't think he's on the ballot. So I wouldn't put a whole bunch on him.
So I shouldn't bet the farm?
I wouldn't.
All right.
But he might, you never know. He might come up with something real quick.
You can never stop that pigeon. He's very advantageous. Okay, so that's a lot of reading right now. So let's go to the watch. What have you been watching lately?
So at every New Year's, I rent out The Outer Limits, the original version from 75, I think was the first season, and then 76 for the second season. It's similar to The Twilight Zone in that it's a lot of speculative fiction and it's very episodic. And a lot of it is using science fiction to explore what's going on today, although today being the 70s. And if I had to plug one specific episode as my favorite, it's called The Demon with the Glass Hand, which it explores a lot about identity and who you are as an individual and who we are as a people. It was also written by, I believe, Harlan Ellison. So there's a lot of strength in the writing there. The teleplay is, I think, some of the tightest TV writing I've seen.
Yeah, no, he's for sure has a lot in his back catalog, whether it's, TV, movies, books, obviously. He's even dabbled in the comics world.
Right.
I'm surprised he doesn't have a podcast, but I also see him kind of being reclusive at this point in his life and not needing it. So he's doing pretty well for himself.
Yeah.
Unlike us, who love to podcast, and you can check out all the rest of our East Brunswick Public Library podcasts on our website at ebpl.org/podcasts. All right, so we're going to end this with the last one, which is a nice segue from podcast to things that you listen to. Jesse, what have you been listening to lately?
So the album that has been streamed the most by me last year, it's called Myth. It's by an artist called the Narcissist Cookbook, which is a phenomenal name. Absolutely love that. It's really exploratory. I think it's a lot of spoken word poetry for a couple of minutes. There's a lot of instrumentals. I think it's really an incredible bit of storytelling. I've listened to it front to back a couple of times now. I've also been listening to a lot of the Gaslight Anthem, which is something completely different.
But it is from New Jersey, so...
Yeah, he's a local. We love it. Their latest album, History Books, got a lot of play in the car as I'm driving to and from. And he's been a fan favorite of mine for many, many years. And he's got Bruce Springsteen featured on one of those tracks, so that's always something to love.
I always love when you find the stories of how somebody like Gaslight Anthem was able to get Springsteen or any of the history of features. It's a part business deal, but it's also like a weird connection, or someone's a fan of someone, or someone knows someone. And yeah, there's sometimes the story behind the music, well, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, they've got a whole VH1 series about it.
They do. That's one of the things I miss about VH1 leaving us in its current form. So, well, some bunch of good recommendations that our producer Melissa is going to put them in the show notes so you can get them from the library. I have one last question for you. Since you've been a library professional for some time now, what is the one thing that you wish more library users knew?
That's a really good question. I think the big thing I would like to plug is the constant availability of all of our online resources and databases. Everyone thinks the library is like, oh, you come in, you get a book, you get a DVD, maybe an audiobook if you're going for a drive. But we have so much available 24/7. Just through our website, you can look at all of our databases, pick up more books and audiobooks. We have Hoopla, which is a great resource I love to plug. And just the level of connectivity that we offer our patrons that I don't think people quite realize.
No, that's very true. It's so interesting that, like, in modern times, you can be an avid library user and never have to physically step foot in our building.
Exactly.
And there's probably some library users who are more used to getting ebooks and downloads in our databases than people who come to the library and who are card-toting regulars who we see every other day. So no, I totally get that. And so if you want to find our e-resources, go to ebpl.org and click on Virtual Library, Downloads. We have a ton of stuff on it. So Jesse, thank you so much for being on our show today. Special thanks, as always, to our producer, Melissa Hosick. You can find more podcasts from us on ebpl.org/podcast. And for Chris Barnes, I'm Chris Barnes. Thanks.